Alright fellas, here we are back in Pokemon Masters. There were some Sygna Suit Lyra and Celebi. They'll be rerunning tomorrow for Pokemon Masters Day. For one, I want to say, if there's background noise that sounds like a fan blowing, that's because there is. It is hot, it is summer. I like not having heat exhaustion. And also, I'm sick, so if I sound a little bit more raspy, well, you know why. Anyway, so Sygna Suit Lyra, she's going to be rerunning, allegedly, Datamine information. And, well, she's obviously back, which is great, right? She's still a good sync pair, which we'll go into why in a sec. But she's getting the Field EX role, which is a massive upgrade for her. This is a very, very good role. Probably the best EX role she could have gotten. We'll think about it more when we look into her abilities, I guess. But either way, whatever, it's a good buff. Even if it may or may not be the best buff, I still think it is. It's still a really good one. So, yeah. Anyway, I guess let's go ahead and dive into this. Whatever. So, at 6-star EX level 140, her stats are good. 460 special attack, 372 physical attack, 230 defenses, 736 HP, 376 speed. Good offenses. Attack could be better, but frankly, her attack is more of a utility stat. Okay, well, it's more of a power up to her utility move, rather, than it is for actual damage. The nuke is special, and that's where your special attack is going, so obviously this is good, right? The defenses are fine, nothing crazy, but they are pretty solid. You could take a few hits, I guess. And again, 376 speed, 736 HP, solid enough HP and speed stats. With the EX roll, she gains, plus 20 in the defenses, right? So 250 in the defense is definitely quite a bit better. She gains more HP and more speed as well, so good gauge and good health, obviously. And of course, level 150, her stats go even higher, so she's got good offenses, solid defenses, solid HP, solid speed. Overall, very, very solid stats, just in general, even for today's standards. For a unit that is over 2 years old now, which is nuts to think about. I was there when she released, man. Anyway, so Lyra's big utility comes from the fact that she was the first grassy terrain setter. I believe I'm quite certain of that fact, but I'm not. Yeah, she's the first grassy terrain setter, and she was really, really good at that role. Not only because she was good at that role of setting grassy terrain and buffing other grass types, but because of this ability, Hassling Hit 9, which has a 100% chance of leaving the enemy confused, flinched, trapped when the user's attack move is successful. If that sounds powerful, that's because it is. It's because you are infinitely flinch locking the opponent as well as giving them confusion and giving them trapped. So if they somehow manage to do an attack, they have the chance of hitting themselves in confusion after, becoming unflinched or whatever, right? And taking trap damage. Which that's even that's barely worth mentioning for the fact that you're pretty much able to flinch lock the enemies with her grassy terrain, her grassy glide move, which is pretty damn good. But let's not get ahead of ourselves, I guess. She's got grassy glide, which is a 3-gauge move, 120 maximum base power, 110 at 3 out of 5. It will not consume gauge when in grassy terrain. This is the big thing, is that she is gaugeless when in grassy terrain, which obviously is why the Field EX roll is so good for her, because otherwise she's only got 2 instances of grassy terrain, with NPR as well, right? But if you don't want to, fish for NPRs, which is a pretty big thing, I believe, in the Gauntlet for a few solos, is fishing for 1, 2, 3 run, whatever. Field EX roll basically mitigates that entirely, and you don't have to worry about actually using grassy terrain, right? You just set it on the sync move. You're setting it, and you're able to get extended grassy terrain, which gives you free grassy glides. Pretty good. Anyway, Dire Hit All Plus, maxing crit of all allies. This does give her some supportive ability, which in the Gauntlet as a situation, this is not really that helpful because she's mostly good for soloing. Dire Hit Plus would be just as effective, but still, crit buffs for allies, that's good in other game modes. Maybe like the Battle Rally or something where you don't have a support or something, and you have the tech slots or whatever available, so you could use Lyra for supportive ability that way, on top of her, good utility with the flinching, grassy terrain, no gauge consumption, etc. And those types of things is where this can be helpful. Grassy terrain turns the field to play with grassy terrain. This is pretty basic. It's the same as Sunny Day, Rain Dance, Psychic Terrain, Electric Terrain, fucking Dark Zone, that type of stuff, right? All the same stuff. But still, it's good for sure. And then Voice of the Forest raises an ally's attack and special attack by 2 and applies gradual healing to an ally. So this is a selectable trainer move where you can use it on an ally. This just further cements her supportive ability, where of course you're probably going to be using it on her, right, to buff her offensive stats for her nuke, her DPS, whatever. But of course you can use it on an ally and be in a more supportive role too, which is perfectly acceptable. And then she's got her her sync nuke here, Time Transcending Magical Leaf, which is a special sync move, contradictory to her physical DPS option here, which is why her special attack is a lot higher, right? And it's got 330 base power, and the attack's power is increased when in grassy terrain. So extremely easy to activate. Obviously, not much else needs to be said. It's good and easy to activate. For the passive skills, she's got Johto Pride, so she's got that Johto Master Fair buff, right? For other grass types, I don't think that really benefits anyone, because I can't think immediately off the top of my head of any other Johto grass types besides her base self. Yeah. So, for activating the Johto multipliers, I don't think Lyra's fantastic for that, or for the Johto Pride stuff. I don't think she's amazing for that, especially because she overlaps with Silver, right? So you can't even run them together and get double Master Passive buffs. And for other physical like attackers, I mean, you can run her, of course, with things with Silver. Just thinking physical attackers, right? Holiday Whitney, I guess, if you want to nuke her, but same time, I guess they do have a little bit of synergy because Whitney can set grassy terrain, it can help out Lyra, but simultaneously, I don't think you'll ever be trying to use these two characters together. In the Gauntlet, you'll be using easily separately. I mean, this is way too good of a team for one battle. In Stadium, I don't think it really matters too much. You can do it if you want to. It's not a bad team. You don't have to. Hey, if I get to showcasing Lyra, maybe I'll just fucking showcase her with Whitney. Who knows? But outside of like those two things, maybe a battle rally setup they could be good together. Maybe outside of that, I don't know. I'm not too sure. Yeah, I don't know. Think about it. Maybe could be good for Argento. The more I'm thinking about it, the more I actually like the combo of Lyra and Whitney in theory. Whatever. Sure. But just the point is, she doesn't really synergize extremely well with any other physical attacking Johto character to where they'll be making a massive use of the Johto Pride. But that's not really the point anyway. It's fine that she doesn't do that. She still gets a 20% power buff for all allies. Actually, I think it's more of a, 20% buff, right? Whatever. 20% power buff to all allies and 15% damage reduction, I think. 25% damage reduction, that's good. Sorry. Yeah, so 20% power up, 25% damage reduction for physical attacks. That's not bad, even if you're not running her with other Johto allies, which of course you can still run her with a Johto support, like Jasmine or something. It's up to you. Again, this is what is probably the most cracked part of her kit, especially back when she released, when flinching, wasn't like abused with resilience, which that's probably where a lot of her modern quote-unquote age has come from, is hassling hit not being as good, because flinching is still good, no doubt, but obviously it's been mitigated by the effects of resilience, right? So that's a little bit annoying, but that's just kind of how the meta happens to go. And still, flinching is good. Like, a lot of fights are still really, really possible because you can flinch at least once on pretty much all enemies, and that really can make a difference in a lot of cases. Like, I wouldn't have been able to do 1000 strength Fantina or whatever because if I were unable to flinch even under resilience, right? So that would have been impossible. So again, flinching is still really, really good in those type of settings. Ruthless 9, 100% chance of debuffing one of the following stats by 2 stat ranks at random when the user's attack move is successful against a flinching, confused, or trapped opponent, and it's one of the main 7 stats. So 2 random debuffs when attacking an enemy that is under these conditions, which in the Gauntlet is going to rank up very quickly because she's going to be pretty much spamming Grassy Glide for the most part. So you're going to be getting a ton of debuffs in, which is extremely good for both increasing her damage and obviously decreasing enemy offenses, increasing their accuracy, that type of stuff. Always really good. Whatever. And Turbo Turf 2, quickly charge engage in grassy terrain. This is good in a team setting. But also at the same time not really, because if you're trying to run a good grass setup, Lyra's already not using Gauge, right, because she's got grassy terrain, and again, Turbo Turf is activated in grassy terrain, so again, Lyra's not using any Gauge, right, 0 at all. You're running her with, like, Adamant or whatever, fucking, I gotta find him again, okay, Adam or whatever, who's got, like, critical freebie, right, I mean, he doesn't consume Gauge either. There's one great partner out of the way. You might be running her with Sygna Studios Rolla for a whole hell of a lot more grassy terrain, right, which, again, she also buffs speed, so, and also applies Gauge buffs, so with the buddy move here, so you're not really dealing with Gauge issues there. Greta, do I even need to mention Greta? For one, she's a 2-gauge move user, she's a sprint, and she's got speed buffs. Okay. And those type of characters, right? And Sygna Erica buffs her speed. Victor is like one of the few characters who probably would benefit a decent bit, but frankly, I don't think it really matters too much. I guess, you know, Celine also wants to buff her speed. Brendan wants to buff his speed. Mixed Red, I guess you could say, but he's also a 2-gauge user himself as well. So I also don't really think the gauge buffs are going to be that crazy, especially because, again, he's also going to be using his move under the context of Lyra not having to use gauge, right? So Terrible Turf doesn't really have too much usage there. But still, it exists, I guess. Either way, whatever. And that's just Lyra at 1 out of 5. And without the grid stuff, she's got like gauge refreshes, NPR on Dire Hit All Plus, which doesn't matter outside of like Battle Rally or MP other MP game modes. And Grassy Glide, sure, right? Gauge refresh 3, whatever. This could be good if you are outside of grassy terrain and you need the gauge refresh. This could be good. Fine enough, 1 out of 5. The point is, Lyra at 1 out of 5 is already really solid. She's got infinite flinches, which is extremely good in the Gauntlet, extremely good in Ultimate battles. Sorry, not unlimited flinches, but guaranteed flinches rather. Great, amazing in stadium. You know, she's been the stadium queen for fucking like ever, basically, because she can just flinch lock the opponents into just not wanting to live anymore, basically. The Gauntlet, she's amazing in save. She's great in Ultimate battles. She's her flinching can be good in for sure. And also she deactivates a few enemy gimmicks such as like Argenta, right? She's obviously got the super effective aspect of that. She's got the grassy terrain as well for supporting allies, and she can also flinch confuse, which Argenta I don't think is immune to, but she refreshes that every turn. So if you just keep spamming it, you can keep reactivating the flinching confusion, the confusion and trap. Anyway, whatever. Like, point is, these abilities are still good in pretty much every game mode, right? Like, obviously there's stages now that have unflappable or whatever, you know, they can't be flinched. That's obviously not great, but still, like, this does not invalidate what Lyra's able to do in every other game mode, because Ultimate battles are, like, while they can be, like, considered the high-end content, there's still stuff like the high score event. There's still stuff like the fucking Legendary Gauntlet, Damage Challenge, that type of stuff, where these abilities are still really good, right? And I don't think that invalidates Lyra pretty much at all since her release. And then she's got the random debuffs as well. Again, amazing in the Legendary Gauntlet. Random debuffs, they can be good in the Stadium as well, Battle Rally. They can be good in pretty much any game mode. It's just, I'd say they probably excel most in the Gauntlet because you have the time to spam Grassy Glide for the most part. And still, again, good elsewhere. DPS is not that great, but again, the big thing with her DPS comes from her utility in flinching and confusion and trap and the debuffs. And her nuke at 1 out of 5 is not really that impressive, but with investment, it can be pretty impressive. And that's mostly what they're going to try and focus on for her damage element. And again, she's also got the supportive ability with the Dire Hit All Plus, the attack and special attack buffs, and the Grassy Terrain setting. I think Lyra is definitely worth going for, frankly. Like, if you're trying to buff your grass types or whatever, Lyra's going to be good for it. She's going to be getting the guaranteed flinches. She's going to work extremely well under Sygna City's role as Grassy Terrain extension, on top of having her Field EX role, right? She's going to be working well with Datamine, right? Giving him the Grassy Terrain, giving him the debuffs, being able to, again, flinch, confuse, trap the enemy. Working well pretty much under any other grass character, or with any other grass character, if you want to use them in, like, whatever setting. She's going to be good for buffing them and also applying her own role to the team. Like any stadium battle, she'll be able to just flinch lock the enemy, set up grassy terrain, you nuke the stage or whatever with your grass sync move, or you whittle them down with your DPS. It's going to be pretty consistent and still pretty strong. Still a good character. Pretty damn good. And the Field DX role helps out a lot because she does not just have to rely on 2 uses of grassy terrain now, or NPR with investment. So whoopee. Anyway, looking at dupes, again, 1 out of 5, she doesn't really have too much. Just the Grassy Glide Move Gauge Refresh, which could be good if you are running her outside of Grassy Terrain. If you want to get those flinches because you want to maybe conserve it or whatever, that's fine. Very valid, and this works for that. 2 out of 5, she gets a Grand Entry 2, Fierce Entry 2, Trend Move NPR, Verdant Recovery, Verdant Immunity, Quick Cure, and I guess like plus 20 in the offenses, whatever. Verdant Recovery is good, combine this with Gradual Healing, and you've got 2 instances of Gradual Recovery. This can be good in like a Gauntlet setting where maybe, you know, you're flinching the enemy and they either become immune to flinching, or you obviously lose you know, or you fail like a Q or something, right? They get a move in between your flinches, you take some damage, you can recover it back between the gradual healing and the verdant recovery. Very consistent healing, very solid healing, and you know, you're back up to full. I'm not gonna say in no time, but right, like you're gonna be healing very consistently. Verdant immunity preventing status conditions. This is probably really damn good for Moltres or something. And obviously, you know, random stages that may want to try and use a status condition on you. Be able to prevent the burn from Moltres is really good in case, again, you know, failed that Q on Grassy Glide or whatever. Especially because she's not weak to fire, so she doesn't just get decimated by Moltres. Also the flying moves it may have. So having that immunity to like burn in that instance is good. Having the immunity to like poison, paralysis, and whatever else is good for like Tornadus, Cresselia. I don't think a lot of us can poison, right? Yeah, no. And any other stage that may want to do that. Like, there's plenty of stages that try and rely on fucking random poison to really whittle you down and be annoying. Thankfully, this makes you immune to that. And then Quick Cure, preventing confusion, flinching, or trap. You know, the one-use ability, still good, right? Or still solid, rather. A little bit more niche, but still solid enough. And then Training with NPR mostly invalidates these entry passes, I would say. This is good for getting extra uses of gradual healing and also maxing out her offensive stats to be able to do as much damage as possible. Not really too much to go into there. It can be solid. 3 out of 5, obviously she gets the most stuff, right? Power Play, Confusion Synergy, Stationary Target 3, Adrenaline 1, Mind Games 4, Grassy Terrain NPR, Trainer Move Mighty Friend, Defense Crush 4, and 2 Sync Nodes. Defense Crush 4 and Mind Games 4, these are mostly to try and directly power up her DPS or her nuke. Mind Games 4 powering up the nuke, Defense Crush powering up the DPS. I don't think either of these nodes are too really worth going for. Maybe Mind Games if you want to really maximize her nuke as quick as possible. But I think if you're playing the long game, she'll be able to mostly activate this stuff from her Ruthless. Unless you're attacking an enemy that is not able to be flinched, confused, or trapped. In which case, I don't think Lyra is the best for that stage anyway. She's mostly taking up the supportive role. So at that end, I would mostly probably try and rely on using another character's sync move because Lyra is mostly going to be unable to get the debuffs that she wants. But of course, you could work around that, really. And this, I guess, is a method to do that, but it's also going to be pretty slow. Either way, these are mostly here if you want faster debuffs for your DPS or your nuking options. I mostly would probably just not pick them up. Grassy Terrain NPR, this is good prior to the Field DX scroll, still probably good, still probably is a decent node to pick up. Getting that those Grassy Terrain NPRs is going to be good for maintaining gauge for long battles. Ultimate battles could drag on very long. Legendary arena stages could drag on quite a bit, right, to where you're needing multiple refreshes of the Grassy Terrain. But I would say for the most part, the Field DX scroll really helps out in not requiring at least as many Grassy Terrain NPRs as you would want, or at the best case, you don't need Grassy Terrain NPR at all. Yeah, that's good, for sure. So, very nice stuff to have there. But, obviously, again, the Field DX roll mostly helps out a ton with that. Trainer with Mighty Friend, also, again, it's not something I think I would really pick up too much. I mean, you could use it for, like, a funny setup where you may, like, try to max out a physical attacking character's DPS. Like, Adamant's Leaf Blade is fine, I guess, in damage, but I think you would mostly want to try and, I guess, maybe use it for, like, something funny with, like, Victor or Lodge Gloria. Wood Hammer Go Burr, or fucking Drum Beating or whatever. That's a Sorolla. Drum Beating. But you could also do it for, like, Adamant's Leaf Blade, or Sonia's Power Whip, or I think it's, yeah, Power Whip. Or, I guess, Celine's Leaf Blade. Whatever you want to do, you could try buffing them with physical moves next to crap load. Though, frankly, I just wouldn't worry about that. I would mostly just ignore this stuff. Probably ignore the sync node in turn as well, but, that's up to you. She got the Confusion Synergy and Stationary Target 3. These are up to 60% multipliers for her Grassy Glide damage. This makes her obviously do more damage, and you can go and mess with that if you want to. Try and get as much damage as possible with her. Ramp up her damage as quickly as possible if you want to try and focus more on clearing a stage faster instead of, or making her a more hard-hitting unit than focusing a ton on the flinch and trap and confusion utility. Which, you can even combine both of those together and be, really good, right? She's got Adrenaline 1 for some sync countdown. This is probably better in combined with the Field DX roll because now you're getting that sync acceleration, at least a little bit of sync acceleration, which could be good to make up for the fact that, you may not be using a support EX or something like that, or you're using her after using a support EX or something. That's also valid, but still you're getting Adrenaline 1 for that sync acceleration. Could be helpful if you can fail a quad Q or are in a situation where you can't quad Q. It can help make up that sync difference, or sync countdown difference. And then obviously power play. This is probably the best node, debatable probably, I guess. But either way, power play, this is what makes her nuke look solid, right? This gives her 220% maximum in total multipliers, combined with like a crit strike 2 or whatever as well, 240% total multipliers, which is pretty solid still for tech standards, with her pretty solid offensive stat as well, right? So she's actually got a very solid nuke now, makes it consistent to where you can pretty much just go self-sufficiency in her moves, grassy terrain, spam grassy glide for the flinches, get to the sync nuke, and blow the enemy out of proportion. There you go. Very nice. That's pretty. I guess that's pretty much the strategy they probably want you to go for her. Just max her stats, set up the grassy terrain, spam grassy glide, nuke, bye stage. Very simple strategy, and pretty effective, I must say, as well. And also, in longer battle form, it's still good because you're still getting a ton of debuffs, you're still going to be able to use her nuke multiple times, and on top of that, you're getting the Field EX roll active where you're now having extended grassy terrain, and you don't have to worry about probably even setting grassy terrain at all. Who knows? Either way, Lyra's kit is still good. Like, at 1 out of 5, she's got the flinch utility, the debuffs, the supportive stuff, and pretty decent DPS. But with 3 out of 5 investment, she gets even better DPS. She gets a quite strong nuke, more debuffing utility, sync acceleration, and a few other abilities such as better gradual recovery, better grassy terrain setting with the NPR, training with NPR for some better self-sufficiency or supportive ability, or whatever it may be, right? She gets these other better abilities that could make her a bit more versatile, or at least make her stronger, which I think is the big thing with the 3 nodes up here, and the 2 sync nodes, of course, as well. Overall, grassy terrain, yeah. Lyra is a very, very strong sync pair still. I don't think there's really too much to deny about that. I still think she is really, really solid. I don't know how to build this grid. I guess just get rid of Adrenaline. I don't really care that much for it. Anyway. You could also just ditch the damage, honestly, frankly. It doesn't really matter too much. Either way, I guess if you want to build, like, maximum DPS and maximum nuke, this is Lyra's grid. And, again, overall, I think she's still a really, really strong sync pair. Still really worth considering going for, even in the modern meta where she's, 2 years old. The Field EX roll was really, really helpful for her. She is if you are really into the Legendary Gauntlet, or you want to be in the into the Legendary Gauntlet, Lyra is easily one of the best units for the job. No doubt about that. The guaranteed flinches is nuts, on top of her debuffs, her damage, her nuke, whatever. Like, she's super easy to use as well. Like, all of that helps out. She's amazing for the stadium, so a new player is going to have a ton of usage with Lyra as well, and I think that the way some of her abilities work could be good for potentially teaching a new player about some of these gimmicks, like the flinch locking aspect of the game as a valid strategy, right? I think that could be good to potentially help out new players, and also being a very effective strategy of actually winning, right? Like, flinch locking the enemy and being able to get in wins is extremely helpful for making sure that a new player can still get all, best rewards without having to invest too much into a character and potentially waste time, waste resources, whatever, right? And even outside of that, again, Lyra's got the utility, or great utility for the ultimate battle rally, where she's again got still the flinch stuff. All just roots back to the flinch stuff, and supportive ability as well. Ultimate battles, I think her niches are still good, but have mostly I'm not gonna say faded out, but how do I word this? I guess I've been put to the side a little bit more in favor of other things. I don't know. I'm not really too experienced or seasoned in the Ultimate Battle scene, but I don't really see Lyra used too much, but I do see where she could still have the usage in those stages that don't allow, or still do allow for flinching, right? Like, you're not flinch locking because they have resilience, but those potential up to 3 flinches on the enemy could still be very helpful. And if you run her with a team setup of, like, Mixed Red or Sygna Roller or Datamine, these big 3 characters, you still can make her look really impressive alongside them, clearing stages like Argenta, Duroc, maybe even probably Thornton, honestly, now with the EX roll, right? I think all those stages could probably benefit, those teams could probably benefit a lot from Lyra's existence. So yeah, still a character that's worth going for in the modern meta. I will be going for her personally, just because I don't have her yet. Not sure. I'm probably going to have to go for her before the Gauntlet starts, because we are probably going to be getting one next month. I mean, they do it every 2 months. It makes sense. Oh well. I'd rather wait, but that's life. Yeah, I'll see you later. Hope you all enjoyed. Good luck if you're going to be summoning for Sygna Suit Lyra. Let me know down in the comments below if you will. Let me know if you're going to be skipping. And yeah, good luck on your summons. Good luck on your skipping. See you later.